Hello everyone. Now let us look at why should we be taking a database approach. So we will look at a simplified model of DBMS and also look at the major capabilities that it can offer and thereby it simplify the system development. So let's look at a simplified view of a DBMS software. What we know is that there are many application programs and all of them will have some requirements for data processing. And DBMS software needs ability to understand the queries or the other requirements that the application programs have. And then the DBMS software also needs to have a full knowledge of the data that is stored. It needs to know where the data is stored, and it also needs to know the definition of the data. So the definition may include the type of the data, size of the data. We may broadly refer to this as a metadata, and you may sometimes refer it as a catalog. So that tells you the information about the data, or you may say data about the data. So by having these functionality, so what the DBMS can offer to the application program is several benefits. So it can make the application program not worry about data. So what we say is that if there is some change to the structure of the data, it is not necessary to change the application program that we are writing to access the data. So the data structure itself is maintained by the DBMS software. And if the data file becomes, or the data table becomes very big and the access becomes slow, the DBMS software has the methods whereby it can create additional structures whereby you can have a faster access. So these are referred as indexing structures. And when data is accessed by many users or many processes, and while the data is being accessed, there is some event, you may say accident or a application error, because of which the data integrity may be compromised. So the DBMS will have provisions to protect it. And the DBMS software will have the security mechanism whereby different users will get different levels of access. And then when we have the data, which is an important resource of the organization, so what we want to do is that we want to take backups, and we want to make sure that the hardware where the data is configured, or the configuration settings related to the data storage, the DBMS software will provide you mechanisms to maintain it. And when many users are accessing the data, particularly there are some applications where the millions of users may be concurrently accessing, for example, a travel reservation or some banking software for a very large bank, or when we are talking about some online stores. So in such cases, it is important that when many users are accessing the same data, or possibly making some events whereby the data needs to be updated, so the concurrent access should ensure that the data integrity is not lost. At the same time, if there are any accidental events, the data should be recoverable. And all these things should happen while the user or the developer should not be burdened with a lot of programming effort. So how does the database help? So what database is doing is to create a data model, ensure that the user need not know the storage details unless that is required by some designer for some specific purpose. So the idea is that the users or the programmers need to know only to the extent they want to work with the data. And the administrators will be able to handle the rest of these data storage and other details. And when many users are accessing the data, it is possible that they're accessing it for different purposes. They may want to see different parts of the data. So when multiple users are accessing, it provides the multiple views whereby the users can see only the part of the data that they need to access. Further, when many users are accessing the data, the DBMS is going to make sure that the update of one user is not impacting the update from the other user. And whenever there are some certain events are happening. For example, we are talking about, let's say in bank, they're transferring money from one account to another account. So here we want to guarantee that either both the updates happen or neither of the updates happen. So the DBMS software will have the ability to identify such transactions, ensure that they're completely executed. Further, if there are any unforeseen events, the DBMS software will have the ability to recover to a state which is valid. So the database approach is helping us in several ways and simplifying the development and the user experience. Thank you.